And let me ask you, Anand Ranganathan, वो जो Kirana store है, the entrance of that, Tom Cooper told us, has been affected, the exit has been affected. And is that what was the inflection point in Pakistan's war games?
Good evening, Navika, and good evening to my fellow panelists once again. It merits saying it's an honor and a privilege to be sharing the stage with exalted military professionals and officers. Thank you very much for having me. Whatever time I have been given by you, I want to divide it exactly in two halves. The first half, I want to talk about that how, as you talked about, an inflection point was reached, perhaps by Pakistan. But I think more importantly than that, I think we reached an inflection point. I think in the last 20-25 years, Navika, if you were to chart out what Pakistan has been doing very successfully, both prongs of its defense, or rather offense, have been demolished by Prime Minister Modi. What are they? Since Parliament attack of 2001, when it was meticulously corroborated that Pakistan's ISI was behind it, planning, orchestration, the 2008 Mumbai attacks, 26/11 attack, meticulously, that wasn't just the ISI, it was the Pakistani army and intelligence involved in it. Every single time Pakistan got away by saying that these are non-state actors, right? Second, we have the nuclear button. These two were the bluffs. Now, in this time, as Prime Minister Modi said, there is no distinction anymore between state and non-state. There is no distinction. That Rubicon has been crossed, and the other Rubicon that lies in tatters is the nuclear bluff. So these two things have happened, and now it is never ever going to be the same again. Now, very quickly, because time is of essence, I come to the second part. What Gaurav said, and I completely agree with him. I think Abhijit also corroborated that. They are to come back. It is in their DNA. They are a terror state. There is no distinction anymore between state and non-state. Now that they are going to come back, what has Modi done? Let me tell you. You know, this is the thing about Prime Minister Modi. Every time when you think he's just made his greatest decision ever, every couple of years he kind of,
reinvents himself.
Does something else that you think, so, before this, I thought his greatest achievement was vaccinating 1 billion people twice over within a year, saving millions of lives. Before that was the Article 370 abrogation. Please, I say this with all responsibility. The keeping in abeyance of Indus Water Treaty 1960 is Narendra Modi's greatest decision ever. Yeah. And I've thought about it. I'm going to write about it very shortly. Why do I say this? Because for the first time, we have a definite handle on going forward to maintain peace in the region. It is in one stroke, it has corrected one of the greatest Nehruvian blunders in history. The other obviously was Article 370 that Modi abrogated. The second correction of Nehruvian blunders has been done. Now, why do I say this? We now have left the onus on Pakistan. You behave and we will keep the Indus waters flowing. You misbehave, you come after us, the tap is off. The tap on off is for peace, not war, and that is Modi's greatest achievement, Navika.
And now the shoe is on the other foot. We are not the one writing dossiers and letters. They are the one. Today the first missive has come from Pakistan to the Indian Ministry of Water, the Jal Shakti mission, saying, "Bhaiya pani de do." Well, पानी will take a while. अब तो ऐसी जगह ले जाके मारेंगे, and this is a Hindi film dialogue, ऐसी जगह ले जाके मारेंगे जहां पानी भी नहीं मिलेगा. But let me ask Lieutenant General A.K. Bhatt, and I want to bring you in here because you've been a former DGMO. And what happened after the air bases were destroyed? After severely being debilitated, Pakistan had no option but to once again go back begging for peace and pause in this warfare. Here's what happened next. On the 10th of May, Pakistani jets had been destroyed, 7 to 10 of them, 35 to 40 Pakistani soldiers, technicians, call them what you will. All of them had been declared as casualties. An officer in Pakistan dialed India to halt. conveyed that message and the DGMO lines work. And they said, ceasefire, ceasefire is what we want to talk about. And you know what India told them? Intezar karo, sochenge. That built up further pressure on Pakistan, and then they went running to, again, their Akas in US. And they said, bacha lo bhaiya, nuclear ho jayega, Sargoda, Kirana, all of that came in that complete begging call that was made. And the Pakistani DGMO then spoke at 3:35 p.m. and it is by that time that India had decided that the lesson had been taught. Do you think this was the turning point? Pakistan, should it be believed? The fact that United States jumped the gun, they knew, they had been informed by Pakistan, but it was in this call between the two DGMOs, after the first missive of ceasefire had already come, that the decision was taken?
Navika, let me explain to me, or try to explain, though I don't know the inside information, that a very clear-cut escalatory ladder had been planned. And like you said, the Prime Minister did order that now attack the airfields. But the entire ladder would have been discussed before, absolutely. I assume. The free hand given to the security forces or to the defense forces meant that the whole plan and the whole escalatory ladder would have been planned. And that is the way it has happened. As soon as Pak has responded to the first level, we have immediately responded and not waited for some time, a few hours or a few days. Those quick responses have made Pakistan go back. And that is why sending airplanes across or hitting airfields is nearly an act of war. From hitting only terrorist camps and telling them, okay, this is where we finish, we have achieved what we want to, we decided in 2 days to raise the level, to go into the airfields. It was a very, very significant act. And definitely, with the losses they had, which you were mentioning, I hope they were that number or maybe more. But the numbers don't matter. What matters is we hit all their airfields. And the message was very clear. So that is why the most significant thing was when the Pakistani DGMO made a request that they want to, they are saying ceasefire or close hostilities or whatever for that time. We had the choice to decide and say, okay, we are going to stop now if you are requesting. And that is what clearly gives it that we had the control of the escalatory ladder from day one. They started it with Pahalgam, but we have ended it from the airfields, and we will go beyond if required later. I can assure Gaurav, if they try anything, the Prime Minister's directions are very clear. The new normals means the act, it will be considered as an act of war. And that means we will again do what we have done or even much more.
Well, Gaurav, isn't that clear from the fact that the briefings of the defense forces have also said this is a suspension of hostilities at the moment? It is not that Operation Sindoor has ended. Does this give the complete battle plan and the complete resolve of the government and the defense forces?
No, battle plan, no, but certainly the resolve is very, very clear that, should Pakistan try any mischief in India, I'm not just saying J&K, and before Sir was a DGMO, he was GOC 15 Corps, and he has commanded the Chinar Corps, so he'll know better than most of us here, that Pakistan has, it can't do without Kashmir, let me tell you this. Because Kashmir the Kashmir policy is around which their diplomacy revolves, their national security revolves. Everything is about Kashmir. It's like riding a tiger. They can't get down from the tiger, and it is only, Pakistan will be forced to do something, and it's only a matter of time, Navika, and at that point in time, we will have to retaliate. How much ever we retaliate, and I'm sorry if I'm sounding slightly pessimistic about it, but how much ever we retaliate, it is Pakistan's quote-unquote majburi. Even if the, let's say, the politicians don't want to do anything, the army is always up to some mischief or the other, they will try something in Kashmir and they'll try and pass it off as something that is done by the local quote-unquote mujahideen, who are actually terrorists, but quote-unquote mujahideen. That is what Pakistan will do. And what will the construct of a retaliation be in Kashmir or any other place in Pakistan? I think that only the future can tell. But yes.
Can I interject for 10 seconds?
Anand.
What you say might possibly come true. Certainly over the last 60, 70 years, that has been the primary focus. But the goings-on within Pakistan, I think, changes things. It shifts the focus. I think now Balochistan, with what has been happening in the last week, I think the focus of Pakistan just might change from or shift from Kashmir to Balochistan.
Is it true? Is it true? Do you think that will happen? Or will Pakistan always try to use Balochistan to be replaced by attack on India, to bring their forces together, to stand by them, use it as a political tool as well?
So, you know, they've traditionally used Kashmir and Islam as a rallying tool. Remember, the case for Bangladesh was a linguistic one, and they always used to say Islam khatre mein to rally it. Now, you know, Kashmir is one of those things which is all about Islam trumping ethnicity, because, you know, Kashmiris on this side of the border and Kashmiris on that side of the border are completely different beasts. Our Kashmiris are the ones who eat Gushtaba Rishta. Their Kashmiris are the ones who eat Rajma Chawal types. This one's the wo kya dam hai udhar? हाँ वो मीरपुर खास वाले, those chaps who are the biggest criminals when you go to the UK, because they were all settled out there. They were forcefully removed when the dam was built and settled out there. Now you have to understand, this is a huge psychological difference out there, even in the Pashtun insurgency, the Baloch insurgency. What is happening here? They're going on trying to use Islam to compensate for ethnic demands that have been raised because of the complete failure of the Pakistani state to perform as a proper state. It's an extractive, extortive, feudal, corrupt little enterprise where a bunch of 200,000 families sit and extort everybody else in that this thing, right? So we need to understand this. Second, we also need to understand they will go to any extent. They have never been worried about the loss of life, as long as it is not the elite loss of life. They don't care how many people from the average slum in Karachi or a middle income housing in Lahore die, as long as these 200,000 odd people sitting at the top of society continue to keep extracting and extorting it totally. And this is why, you know, the finesse of our strikes matters so much. We understood that mindset. It wasn't aimed at the Pakistani people. You look at what happened in Bolari and Bahawalpur. These are classic cases of intelligence. Bahawalpur, we got the family. Imagine how much human intelligence and coordination, last minute coordination it took to be there right at the spot where Masood Azhar probably was. I don't know how the fellow escaped, but whatever. Bolari,
because he needed to experience, and I'm telling you, this is divine justice.
It is.
You make, you know, you kill people, you make their families suffer. Well, first, God will bestow the same thing
Absolutely.
to you, and then
I hope he now believes in the Hindu concept of karma, because karma came back to bite him. And Bolari, the same thing happened with the Saab aircraft, Navika. We suspect, we don't know, we have not been able to confirm. I need to be very clear about this. Because, you know, head counts of aircraft out on the tarmac take time. But in Bolari, we suspect the raid was carried out precisely when the AWACS had gone into that particular bunker. We could be wrong. But, you know, it shows you we've moved from, you know, crude, big strikes to extraordinary finesse. Even the New York Times is forced to admit highly limited in impact. My God. I mean, the Islamabad Times admitting to it, I'm very impressed.
You're calling the New York Times Islamabad Times.
So what should I call it? The Jihad, Pakistani Jihad Times?
Sushant Sareen is grinning ear to ear. Sushant, what do you make of this? And this whole thing about, you know, Donald Trump stepping in. There was no phone call between the Prime Minister and President Trump. That's one takeaway that we have from this entire story. Not one phone call in those 4 or 5 days, or in fact, you know, the entire planning period of 47 meetings in safe houses, post which the Prime Minister was kept in the loop. Nowhere was there any call from Donald Trump. There was one call from J.D. Vance after Pakistan called up and said that, you know, we need some reprieve, and they've destroyed our air defense systems, we will do something big. That was the blackmail that they used, the nuclear blackmail, to which the Prime Minister responded. So where is all this fodder that our opposition parties within India getting from कि सब कुछ तो Donald Trump ने किया?
So, Navika, part of it is pure politics, okay? And, you know, I think that's par for the course, simply because Donald Trump is constantly saying this. He wants to take credit. He wants to show to the world that he is the guy who saved the world from some kind of a nuclear exchange. Even though, I think just today, the Pakistani Deputy Prime Minister, Munshi Ishaq Dar, he's the Munshi basically, he has said that absolutely there is no question of any nuclear exchange. We were not going to go in for any kind of nuclear exchange. So if the Pakistani political guys are saying that there was no question of any nuclear exchange, then what nuclear exchange is Donald Trump talking about? But I think he's trying to pretend to his own constituency back home and to the rest of the world that he is this great peacemaker, when he is nothing, right? There was, from the highest quarters, again we've learned, there was no question of any trade talks or any leveraging of trade with any kind of, you know, backing off from the confrontation that was taking place. Nothing of the sort. As you correctly said, there was only one phone call from J.D. Vance. Yes, there was some communication with Marco Rubio, but that was part of the diplomatic outreach of India. And it was not just Marco Rubio, the foreign minister and other people were talking to their counterparts in different capitals around the world, right? We were trying to drum up our own diplomatic support. The Saudis, when they came to India, they didn't say anything. They didn't even try to mediate. They came purely to commiserate with us, in a manner of speaking, right? They were not part of any mediation. Nothing of the sort. So the point is that Trump can say whatever, but because Trump is saying, you know, it gives the opposition a bit of a handle and it gives the Pakistanis a face saver. But let me just come back to a point, Navika, allow me half a minute. 30 seconds, as Anand Ranganathan keeps asking you, and then takes 1 minute. It's
becoming a universal problem of 30 seconds more when you actually take 3 minutes.
Oh, come on.
But Navika, on this whole thing which Gaurav had spoken about, and my other colleagues on the panel also agree, yes, the Pakistanis will try something. Yes, it's a congenital thing with them that they will want to try something. What are the limits? But I think they also understand that the new doctrine that has been enunciated means that over the next couple of weeks, if not already, the Indian state would have already pre-designated targets that they are going to hit in the event of any terror attack coming from Pakistan. And the chances are that the attack which the Indians will launch will be within hours, not in days. Forget weeks, forget days, it will probably be within hours. I think that is the kind of capability that is being brought to bear. If the Pakistanis expect that, what it means is that they will, before they launch a big terror attack on India, to check how serious India is about this new doctrine, which they will try and test, they will first try and refurbish all that they have lost. Second, they will also, before they launch a terror attack, I think we will see telltale signs of them becoming hyperactive to absorb any Indian attack coming towards their side. So that will be a telltale sign that they're trying to do something. So I think there will be enough signatures in the day ahead, in the days and weeks and months ahead, whether if the Pakistanis are trying to do something. But I think it's very clear from the Indian doctrine that now a red line has been established. That does not mean that, you know, that even one particular attack will mean, or one particular casualty somewhere will mean that, you know, the jets are going to go and missiles are going to fly. Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. I'm not going to hazard a guess on that. It could very well be the Israeli model that the day you hit one person also, we are coming for you, regardless. Now, it could be that. It could be something more than that. But I think that is something we also need clarity on. But other than that, the message to the Pakistanis is very clear. And even more importantly, that we will continue to escalate. We will continue to escalate. And if you can't handle the terrorists, we will handle them for you. So either you stop it or we will.
Absolutely, you're absolutely bang on. When I was speaking to my sources, they are in a ready condition. It is, probably a 30-second notice that is required for them to be battle ready. Gaurav Arya.
Yes. Very quickly, Donald Trump needed a win. He said within 24 hours of my taking over as president, the Ukraine-Russia war will stop. He said, if you don't give back the hostages, I will obliterate Hamas. He said the war is going to stop within 48 hours of my taking over as president. And he made so many promises. He threatened the Houthis, who responded by bombing his warship. This man needed a win desperately, and when Pakistan crawled to him, he took whatever he took, and he said that I am the peace broker. He needed a win. He has not been getting this win that he has promised all along.
Well, Ananth Ranganathan, hasn't he worsened his own position by saying, oh, these fellas are great friends of mine and let's go out for day. The first day, probably he could, as Gaurav is saying, gone for the win. But now he's made so many statements that nobody takes him seriously.
Navika, may I add two things in this? And maybe I am not in agreement with the House totally. One, for any confrontation, you do require a mediator. Some kind of mediator. It may not be an active mediator. And the second is, you had to give a face saver, which Sushant mentioned. And both happened. We have to ignore it and not highlight it now and say, okay, America did a major issue. Okay, we required somebody there.
Okay.
Now, Navika, whatever everyone said, especially Sushant, is true.
I need 10 seconds.
Oh.
I need 10 seconds. Anand, please, allow me.
Okay.
Please. Okay. So General Saab, very, with great, all due respect, I must disagree with you. It is imperative that Pakistan is not given a face saver and made to withdraw by rubbing their nose in the dust. Until and unless you do that to these Punjabi Muslims, they will not get the lesson. So please, let us not get into this habit of giving them a face saver. You have to rub their nose in the dust because these fellows will not learn otherwise. So please, I very humbly submit to you that I don't agree that they need to be given a face saver, sir.
Yeah. Anand. So, Navika, just because Sushant is 100% Punjabi, you've given him 3 minutes.
You're
30 seconds. Yeah, so at least give me half that. Now, look, it begs repeating why I said what I said the first time round. And let me emphasize on that. Does anyone, I speak as a layman, does anyone earnestly believe that the Israeli-Palestinian conflict has ended? Absolutely not. Yes. In fact, it has escalated after the events of the last couple of years. So it is a feeding machine. War, there is a cost for it. When we say we will always attack, we have to be perpetually ready, whatever the cost may be, but we are prepared to bear it. So yes, we'll go ahead. That is why I emphasize, it is always better to have a handle where war is not a deterrent. And right now we have that handle. Israel doesn't. The Indus Water Treaty is the perfect handle because maintaining peace is in Pakistan's hands. There is no cost to us.
Well, absolutely. You said it there, but on Operation Sindoor files that we've been breaking here on Times Now for the last 2 hours, I want to tell you just the big takeaways. Number one, the Prime Minister needed no nudging. It was on 22nd April in Riyadh where he had come to a conclusion that retribution had to follow. There was no if, there was no but. Number two, meticulous planning led by National Security Advisor Ajit Doval. Safe house meetings, 47 of them, round-the-clock meetings, every single detail was worked out. But first, over and above the implementation stage was the intelligence. And the intelligence was so bang on that 9 targets of the terror camps were hit with precision. Such precision that it missed Masood Azhar by just a wall in between. That shows the level to which we had our intelligence. Number three, we didn't want this war. We had destroyed the terror camps, and that's what the Prime Minister said. We've destroyed the terror camps and we don't want to escalate it. Fair. Nobody in this world any longer in this era is fair about these things, but India conveyed the message to Pakistan, we will not escalate beyond this. Pakistan provoked, targeted civilians, targeted temples, pushed missiles. damaged some of our equipment. And it was then at that time, whoa, Prime Minister was wearing a cap with a trishul. तीसरी आंख खुली, शिव का तांडव हुआ, and then Pakistan had to pay. And this was the retribution, the payment that had to come from Pakistan. The air bases were destroyed, so much so that even their nuclear command center, their aircraft, 7 to 8 of them, and their nuclear storage center had some damages. Pakistan went running for a ceasefire. The ceasefire was given. But that's not enough. And I want to conclude, as I thank my panelists tonight, ladies and gentlemen, I want to conclude by saying it doesn't end here. Even if we are not at war, we are very clear. Turkey, China, Azerbaijan, the countries that have been inimical to India in these 4 days. People of India, citizens of India are enough to pay you back. We don't need a war with you. Tourism to Turkey is facing cancellations. Ground handling contracts to various companies from Turkey. The government, and I can break this right now, the government is planning and looking, even as we speak, on ending these contracts because national security clause exists in every single agreement and contract that we have. Turkey, Azerbaijan, watch out. Indian government and Indian citizens will not take it lying down. More on this coming up on the other side on the NewsHour agenda. But thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me on this special edition of the NewsHour Tonight.